never take anything in football for granted. And I realised that the performance against Brighton was simply not good enough. So you have to accept people's opinions and move on with it. You know, it's the one thing I've never done, Keith, ever. Because we're in a fight, the easy thing would be to walk away. Because we're in a fight and we're in the thick of it, then the last thing I'm going to do is walk away, because certain individuals who are entitled to their opinion, of course they are, you know, but I'm determined to see it through, and that's what I'll try and do.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم اليوم في نيوكاسل مع وليد. معنا اليوم ضيفين مميزين. معنا الإعلامي البريطاني الرياضي ستيف ريث من مدينة نيوكاسل تحديدا. معنا أيضا ستيوارت بنمان عضو رابطة مشجعي نيوكاسل والمقيم في الخليج. أتمنى اليوم بإذن الله تكون حلقة جميلة. اللي عنده أسئلة بخصوص نيوكاسل والدوري الإنجليزي وصفقة الاستحواذ التي ننتظر منها العديد من لدينا العديد من الاستفسارات هذه الفترة، ونتمنى إن شاء الله نتيجة جلسة التحكيم تظهر في هذه الشهرين القادمين. نتمنى لكم طبعا احنا في الأسبوعين القادمين رمضان كريم للجميع. بلغنا الله وإياكم الشهر الكريم، وأتمنى بإذن الله يعني إنه الله يعينكم إن شاء الله على قيامه وصيامه. Tonight good evening. We don't need to introduce who we are honored to host tonight. We have Steve Wraith and Stewart Penman tonight with us. We are lucky today. All your questions hopefully will be answered. Hopefully, inshallah, Newcastle will win tomorrow against Spurs, Tottenham. Hopefully, Newcastle will be survived from this relegation battle, and hopefully the takeover will go through. Welcome, Steve Wraith, and welcome, Steve Penman.
Thanks, وليد.
All right, so let's start with now. FIFA days are gone. We just have a surprise tonight. West Bromwich Albion just hit Chelsea with 5 goals. Thomas Tuchel spent maybe 8 games or 9 games, maybe he conceded two goals only, and tonight he conceded 5 goals. So 14 days since Brighton awful games with Newcastle. What do you think, lads? What do you think or expect happened in those 14 days at the club, and what the change we expect to see tomorrow? Let's start with you, Steve, and welcome to the show.
Well, yeah, thanks for having us back on. Always good to speak to you. You obviously do a lot of shows for me, so it's always nice to reciprocate. The answer to your question about what's happened at the club, very little. I mean, Steve Bruce decides after the disappointing performance against Brighton to give the players 6 days off out of 9 potential working days. It's been an international break, so of course a lot of the players have been away. They will have been training. Some of them have played, some of them haven't. But that is the biggest disappointment, that there hasn't been as much training for the players. That is the big disappointment. Other than that, there has been a lot of rumours, a lot of counter rumours flying around the media. Talk of Matt Ritchie, of course, having a fallout with the manager about Lascelles potentially wanting to give up the captaincy, and then the players persuading them not to do that. There's been lots and lots of rumours flying around. Talk of, potential players coming back, of course, as well tomorrow, with the likes of Alanson Maximin and Callum Wilson being available again. Dubravka was hit with illness. There was talk of him not being available, but it looks as if that's changed now. So there's been a lot of rumours and stories, but very little action going on. And some would say that it's probably a good thing that Steve Bruce hasn't been able to train the players, because when he's had time training them, there's been some awful performances. So maybe his time away with international coaches, Waleed, who know what they're doing, might have benefited them. And I probably point to Ryan Fraser, out of all the players who's been on international duty, who, has been away. He's played 2 games in a preferred position and he scored 2 goals. Hopefully he will come back with a spring in his step and, want to put his international performance, into a black and white shirt now and potentially get some goals that are going to help keep Newcastle in the Premier League.
Yesterday I watched the Three Amigos late at night yesterday, and Dr. Neil Mitchell, he says something that, why Ryan Fraser play as a good winger last night? Because he's a winger.
It's true. It's true, though. I think the phrase that maybe a lot of people have used on the show on NUFC Matters over the last few weeks, Neil in particular, is square pegs in round holes, and that's been the problem. We've been playing lots of players out of position, and that is what has annoyed a lot of Newcastle fans when, the time came for a substitution against Brighton, when the game looked as if it was all but over for us. We didn't put a forward on. Where is the logic in that? Why not put a centre forward on? And it's not a difficult game, football. You play your best players and you play them in the position that they're supposed to play in, and you try to get the best out of them. But unfortunately, Steve Bruce hasn't done that time and time again, and that is why we're in the position we're in. And you started your little intro looking back at the West Brom game, and it's funny, you quoted the stats, which you were correct with, that Thomas Tuchel had only conceded 2 goals, I think, in his first games as Chelsea manager. I think they'd scored 17, conceded 2. I think they'd won 8, drawn 4, lost 0, something along those lines in his first 12 games. Amazing stats. They get a player sent off today, and they've collapsed. I saw Sam Allardyce interview before the game, and it was on Football Focus, which is a programme on BBC One. I like to catch that if I can. And they were focusing on West Brom and the fight for survival, but talking about Sam Allardyce's previous great escapes with other teams. Of course, Sunderland was in there. He managed to get Sunderland away from the bottom. Crystal Palace. He did it with Bolton many times. So this guy has a history of stringing results together at the right time. And again, who's to say West Brom won't do that? I spoke to my dad straight after the game and he's going, no, they're too far gone. Never say never. There's always one team that drops like a stone, and there's always one team that manages to climb out of it, which you think is, can't climb out of it. It looked very much a couple of weeks ago as if that team was going to be Sheffield United. But a couple of results now, I can't see it. I think Sheffield are down. Could West Brom escape? Never write Sam Allardyce off. And he always likes to upset Newcastle fans, Big Sam.
Well, after tonight, as my friend Martin says, everybody beating everybody. That's the beauty of the Premier League. Stewart, what do you think of that?
What, the last 14 days? Or the Chelsea game?
Everything.
Well, I'm with Steve's dad. I think West Brom are too far gone. And it was a fluke result, and the way I see it is they didn't make the right changes, Chelsea, after a sending off, and they thought they were too good for them, and they got caught out. So you got to give credit to Allardyce through gritted teeth, but he did a job with them today. But they're second bottom for a reason. They're not winning enough games, and I'm sure they'll get a lot of, I suppose, positive feed from that today. They'll be happy with it and try and carry it on in other games. But Newcastle's fate's still in our own hands, and this is what people seem to forget. We're not in the relegation zone yet, although we're doing a very good job of trying to get there. We're not in the relegation zone yet. So it is still in our hands. We're not relying on other teams winning or losing. It's up to us what we do. The last 14 days, I actually understand to a point, give players time off. But after that performance at Brighton, which I think was on a par with the Sheffield United game earlier in January, I think it was, which I said was the worst game of football I've ever seen Newcastle United play. The the first thing they should have done is had all the players in the next day, apart from the ones who were travelling for international, and just made them sit and watch it. If they give them time off, give them time off. Let them recuperate. But shorten that time. You know, you've got to have a stick and a carrot. Okay, if we win today at Brighton, we'll give you 6 days off. If we don't, this is what we're doing. You know, they've got to have pride in their own performances. And there was something that I think it was you, Steve, that said last night. When there was a break in play, the players went to get a drink of water at half-time, at the sideline. And there was too many people listening to Graham Jones. Some were listening to Bruce. Bruce looked like he was just mimicking or parroting what Graham Jones was saying. And it's just a clusterfuck, for want of a better phrase. You know, the people don't know who to follow. You know, he's the boss, so I better do as he says. But he makes sense. Or maybe I should just do my own thing. And they all get confused with it. And they need to be able to say, my personal opinion is if they're not going to sack Steve Bruce, put him on garden leave. Get him out of the way. He's on danger. He's endangering our Premier League survival, and that could have huge ramifications for what's coming ahead in the coming weeks, and well, hopefully coming weeks, not longer. You know, we just need to have a bit of stability and all singing off the same hymn sheet, not people's egos saying, well, yeah, he's coming with a good idea. And the biggest, how do I word this? The biggest example, I suppose, is if you look at how they've played since Graham Jones come in. Also, one player come in, which was Joe Willock. His first game, he was tireless. You know, he had a huge engine. He was backwards and forwards, and he was the sort of midfielder that we've been crying out for all season. And it seems to be his last few performances have been very, very below average. And not just blaming him personally, because it's the whole team's been like that. But it's just like they've got no get up and go inside them. You know, they've got no pride in their own performance. And it takes me back to the time when Ruud Gullit was telling Alan Shearer he was no good, and you know, and he dropped him. And once Ruud Gullit left, Bobby Robson came in and said, "You're the best striker in Europe, if not the world, and I'm going to build a team around you." And the same team that was floating around the bottom, you know, they're rocketing up the league. So it's the same players. It's mind over matter. And when you have a coach who is constantly telling you that the opposition are such a wonderful team, and you know, we're going to be lucky to get something, you end up start believing it, or half believing it anyway. You know, the doubts start creeping in the back of your mind. And you know, with Bruce, he started the season results wise quite well. You know, we were all quite surprised with where we were sitting after 5 or 6 games. But nearer Christmas, after he had the falling out with ASM, who then took the hoof and went to France, what he come out with, he said something in the press, nothing about St. Maximin, but it was, look, my remit is to keep us in this league. And it just sucked any ambition these players had. You know, you got your Wilsons, you've got Fraser, you know, all the new signings and think, what have we come to if that's, you know, they've got international aspirations. And this guy's just saying we're not bothered if we finish 10th, 9th, 8th, because they've got a squad who should easily, or not easily, capable of being top half. And he just said, look, we're here for survival. That's my remit. That was the phrase he used. It was his remit. So, you know, if you're pushing yourself to give yourself that 7 or 8 out of 10, you end up subconsciously thinking 5 or 6 out of 10 is going to be sufficient to keep the manager happy. And this is why we're in the trouble we're in. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it as well.
Less than 24 hours before our game against Tottenham. I know we are going, we have full prediction contest between you lads, and we are going to spend quality time about it, for it. Steve, what do you think, what do you expect to see tomorrow specifically after these 14 days off? What do you expect regarding formation, lines up, tactics of Bruce?
I expect to see, unfortunately, Shelby and Hendrick in the starting 11. I think everybody's worried and concerned that that's going to be the case. The only bright shining light from the Brighton game was that Sean Longstaff came on, and I know that when we talked about that, it was fancy just giving the kid that short amount of time coming on the pitch, but at least he got on. There's hope that he might see Sean Longstaff as potential, a potential starter for this game. it's the biggest decision he's had to make. Tomorrow he's got to go with Dubravka in goal. I think his back four will remain fairly unchanged. I don't think he's going to change Lascelles, despite rumours of him talking about wanting to step down and not be captain anymore. I find that hard to believe anyway, but I think he will go with Lascelles. I know there's a lot of people would like to see Fernandez back in the team. Dummett for me, has to be in there as well. We're not spoiled for choice with right backs. I think the back four will pick itself. The midfield's the biggest concern for me, Waleed. What midfield would I like to see? I'd just go for an attack-minded midfield. I'd like to see both Longstaffs in there. I would like to see Sean and Matty in. It's not going to happen. I think I'd like to see Murphy playing. I'd like to see Fraser in there. You see, I'm a 4-4-2 man. I used to stick with it when I managed at a non-league level. My players used to hate us for it because they were always wanting to experiment, but I would go with 4-4-2. I'm not an Andy Carroll fan, but I would start Andy Carroll. Again, I would start him in every game that he can start in, and I'd get half an hour out of him instead of bringing him on, because he's not an impact player. He's somebody who you could probably start, get a good half out of him, and then replace him. But I'd start Andy Carroll and I'd start Dwight Gale. That is it. And I think Andy Carroll and Dwight Gale would form a formidable partnership. And I think if you had Jacob Murphy and Ryan Fraser putting the balls into them, I think it would work. I think Miggy Almiron would make a good impact player. I think he's the kind of player who, if Andy Carroll gets tired, you take him off and you put Almiron on, and then it gives the back four something to worry about then. Because not only have you got Dwight Gale running around like a fox in the box, but you've got Almiron who would frighten centre halves. They hate pace, and it gives you that alternative. I don't think Almiron's he's not the finished article. He's clear that he's gone backwards under Steve Bruce, but I think as an impact player coming on, he's the kind of player who would come on with the right mindset. A lot of it's down to man management at any level of football, and man management is a big part to play. We've seen, I think I've mentioned on my show many times in the last few weeks, I've been watching all of these documentaries, which I'm late to the party watching them. I've watched the Leeds United one, I've watched the Tottenham one, and now I'm watching the Man City one. And what I see is, it is man management. It's how you put your arm around one player and how you have to shout at another. And it's, if you don't have that as a basic, as a manager, you're going to struggle. Being a coach and a manager is two completely separate things. I was never a good coach. I wasn't very good with tactics. I always had to have somebody else in with me who was more akin to tactics. That's why I used to stay with a basic 4-4-2. But with man management, that was my forte. I could go and pick a team, and I could I'd be out on a drink with the lads. I'd be the last bloke home. But the lads loved it. If we won a cup final, I'd be the one crying. You know what I mean? And the lads loved the emotion. The lads wanted to play for me. That was the difference. And I've seen a lot of that in these programmes. Bielsa's a respected coach. He's somebody who has won things in the game, but he knows also how to coach a team. He's got both sides of it. But he could be one of the lads as well. You saw him celebrating and singing and being part of it in the dressing room. Jose Mourinho, I think needs other people around him, but again, he's got the respect because of what he's won and because these various all the trophies he's won at different levels. Is he a good man manager? No, I don't think he doesn't seem to be. I saw from the footage that we saw of him interviewing people in the dressing rooms. So far, I've only watched a couple of episodes of the Man City one. Difficult to tell. Pep looks as if he's got both as well, but I'll reserve judgment on that. But this is taking us to Steve Bruce. I think he's 20 years out of date. He's called a dinosaur for a reason. And he's part of that Man United team that was like Paul McGrath, Norman Whiteside, Frank Stapleton. Hughesy was coming through at the time. Brian Robson, all big drinkers, all liked a day out and a night out. And do you know what I mean? Probably had a drink before the match, the night before the game. But that's it. That's an old era. And I think that's half the problem at Newcastle. what do I expect tomorrow? Do I expect Shelvey and Edric to start? I just don't think he's got the scruples, the morals, the brains to see what we need to do in midfield. And I think Shelvey frightens him as a player. I think he realises that Shelvey controls that dressing room, and he's allowed him to control the dressing room by allowing him to have the captain's armband, which he should never have had in the first place. And I think he's let the wrong players run the dressing room, and I think he's suffering for that now. He's not a very good manager, not a very good coach, and unfortunately, he's allowed some of those players to dictate things in that dressing room, and now he's suffering the consequences of it because the players he allowed to dictate aren't very good. That's where we're at. And, other players I would consider, involved tomorrow is Matt Ritchie, but again, he won't involve him for whatever reason. He doesn't like Matt Ritchie. Yet that guy's a workhorse. 7 out of 10 every game he plays for you. Not the greatest player by a long shot, but again, Matt Ritchie, have him involved, have him in the dressing room. He knows what it's like to fight a relegation battle. He's been involved in them at Newcastle. He's also somebody who can get you a goal, but this is the team that I would select. But Steve Bruce, no, he's made of different stuff, sadly.
A great analysis, Steve. But we would like to know why Steve Bruce played this way, why he thinks this is working, and the results prove he play wrong. And do you expect he will play the same tomorrow, or we are going to notice some change?
I don't think he's learned his lessons. Listening to his press conference, reading his statements in the media, I do not think he's learned anything. He doesn't understand. He doesn't realise. He spent a lot of yesterday again attacking the journalist, which he won't name, Craig Hope, who he's banned from the ground. The club have banned him from the ground, and he said certain people have agendas. He hasn't got an agenda. He's writing about the football club, which is in a mess. The team's he's doing his job. The team's in a mess. A good friend of mine, Kev, was walking around the ground today. You might have seen the photographs on Twitter. Fire and Skill he comes under on the on Twitter. Photographs of the ground. It's in complete disrepair. Steve Hasty was up there this week. The ground's a mess. The training facilities are embarrassing. We've got a terrible manager. We've got a terrible owner. Steve Bruce is just. He's part of a bigger problem. The club is in a mess. It's why we wanted the Saudi takeover. It's why we want the Saudis to come in and help us rebuild the club from top to bottom and reshape the club. And Saudi money will go a long way to doing that. But the investment that's going to come from PIF in particular is going to change not only the club, but it's going to change the region for the better. And we want the Saudi takeover. There's no doubt about it. And for me, I just think that once arbitration finishes, we don't know if it's begun yet, but I think it'll be a lot clearer as to whether that can go ahead. And I'm looking forward to the day when PIF come back and they say we are now coming to Newcastle, because that will be the day that Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur all look very, very worried, and we'll all be smiling, and we will have to come. We'll come back on this show and toast the success.
Hopefully. Thank you, Steve, for this great talking. Stewart, what do you think of what we are going to expect tomorrow?
Well, I always like to say we'll win 3-1, and I already have a bet on 3-1 every game, but tomorrow, I think we're in disarray. The club's in disarray. I think it was Truls just put on there that Shelvey's injured. And I don't know if that's a joke or not, but if he's not playing, it's not because he's injured. That'll be player power. He's not played to be injured, so there's no way he can be injured. We're talking about Steve Bruce. The question that you asked Steve was, is he capable of change, and does he think he's doing anything wrong? I actually believe he does think he's doing something wrong. He can't be that stupid. When he does it, he's looking at the league table, but it's ego. He thinks he's better than what he is, and if he changes it, it's him accepting that he was doing something wrong, and he's too stubborn to do that. To say, right, okay, I'll change this, or I'll accept that Graham Jones's tactics may be better than mine, or his selection may be better than mine, and the club have undermined him for a reason, but they need to finish it off. And like I said, if they're not going to sack him, put him on garden leave and get the dead wood out. So unfortunately, I don't say anything but Tottenham win tomorrow, especially around the midfield with two pedestrians being very polite. I think they pass the ball quick, they move the ball quick, they run quick, and it's a non-existent mannequin we've got with Shelby standing there, and whoever he has in next to him can't do the job of two against what are now world-class internationals for Tottenham's forward line. Now, I was actually smiling when Steve was talking about Almiron and how he's quick and an impact player. He'd probably be playing left back tomorrow because he's got a fast winger. So, I'll put him next to him. Yeah, so nothing would surprise me. But I am in agreement with Steve. I would start Andy Carroll because he gives these defenders something to think about. And if you're not playing Gale, even though he's got his new contract that Steve Bruce knew nothing about, if you're not playing Gale, play Almiron next to him because he can run. And we've all played football at various levels. If someone's running at you and you've got the ball, it gives you less time to think about your next pass. And this forces mistakes. But we just seem to sit back and applaud the other team's movement and passing. And, oh, that was nice. Oh, that was good. So if Almiron's running around these centre-halves, who can force errors and win the ball higher up the pitch. But we do need wingers, whether it be Murphy, whether it's Fraser. You know, there isn't much choice, to be fair. But if we're getting wingers, if you're playing Carroll, you need wingers. But you'll end up taking Carroll off and put the winger on, so you'll cross the ball to nobody who can win it. You know, so we can sit here and debate and put thought into it, which seems to be a lot more than what the current manager's doing. And that's the sad thing, you know. And you see all the criticism Newcastle fans expect. I think any fan base wants the team to try, you know, or at least be able to have a plan B or C. And at the moment, the plan is like, we're going to do it this way. And I know you don't believe it, but I'm going to keep you doing it. And that's bad management. It doesn't matter if it's football or any line of work. If you're a manager, your job and you have a team is to get them together collectively, make them feel part of a team, not separate them and you're this, you're that. No, we'll have the British players there, we'll have the foreign nationals there, and or however it's separated. You've got to have a team together, and your weakest link, you have to work on that and make that your strongest link. And yeah, you set targets. The whole idea is to overachieve, and if you overachieve consistently, then that becomes the norm. And your bar's been raised. Then you push again. You know, then you push again. Then you push again, and it's amazing if you can get, as someone said psychologically, how much more you can get out of them. But also that it has the reverse effect. How much, if you get to someone's head, how less you can get out of them. You know, so this is why you see players not putting the effort in, and it's cheating. And that's what Newcastle fans won't want and won't suffice, is players on the pitch not putting the effort in, and basically it's cheating. Because it's a hard working area. People graft hard for the money. And when they see people, if they did it in their job, they'll lose the job, they know that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting the same from the players and from the club. Not just the players, the club in general. You know, if you're talking about the ground being in disrepair, it's something that Mitch talks about a lot. But they're easy wins. You know, show that you care. And if you show someone you care, it's normally reciprocated as well. But they're just getting left to drown at the moment, and it's sad watching it. It really is.
That was very great from you, Stu. And I think this is the longest preparation for the fight. We have still 15 minutes before the question. We have big topic tonight. It's our topic for tonight. We have 9 rounds to go. Newcastle season has for this season. We have I forget to put the picture. No, this is the picture.
I just clarify something, I believe, because Steve said yesterday that I buffed myself up on that on the promo and the flyer. I had nothing to do with it. Anyone who knows it, I can't have no good with it.
I thought you looked pretty good. Like, it's just as a boxing promoter, as a professional boxing promoter, I'm just a bit concerned that a heavyweight's going in against a flyweight there.
It didn't look good, like, did it? I'm not confident about the way it looked like, It's, but I had nothing to do with how it was done. But I'll believe my friend. He's taking me out later after this show, so it's probably done to be kind.
To be honest,
just think, you know what I think will happen there, Waleed? I just think there'll be, as soon as the bell goes, I think Stu and me will both throw a right-hander and knock that referee out.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, I'm using one program, and I found the picture I have, or from the Google, when I write your names up. It's I just pick randomly because the face direction. That's all.
Very good.
No, I didn't. Yeah. I just calculate tonight. I found we have more 50 days. I don't know if you are watched the movie before, the 500 Days of Summer, but we have 50 days. 50 days of Bruce. 50 days, 9 games, and 50 days of Bruce. So,
very good.
Yeah. So I don't know. This 50 days, it's our life in stake in these 50 days. So I know we talk about Tottenham tomorrow. As you said, lads, we expect some change or important change tomorrow. Let's talk in. Let's have some predictions. I have a prediction contest for you. It's we're gonna just a quick expectation of
the work, Steve.
A quick expectation. Yeah, expect a quick expectation of the result and why. So we'll start game by game, and we'll start with you, Steve.
Okay, I like the way your graphic comes up, and it's actually got a just because they're laughing at Steve Bruce's tactics there. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want us to start with the first game, Tottenham. Okay, tomorrow. I've got to be perfectly honest. I'm with Stu on this. I do genuinely feel it's a very tough game. I think they've got too much for us. With Harry Kane, Son coming back. They've got Dele Alli, Bale, you name it. They've got a whole host of stars. No fans there tomorrow again. Jose Mourinho's beaten his jinx. I can't see Newcastle getting anything out of it tomorrow. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Tottenham tomorrow.
1-0 Tottenham. Still.
Well, as I said, the club's in disarray, and I believe Tottenham will be too good for us tomorrow. And I'm going to go for 2-0 Tottenham.
2-0. So we are agreed on a loss. We know that last game that it was 1-1. We steal a point or steal a goal from a penalty causing by Andy Carroll and scored by Wilson, as I remember. It was lucky there at London. But for me, I'm not commenting about every game, but just this game, I'm expecting 0-0, 0-0, because I expect the international players tired and usually surprises after 50 days. Just in general. All right, so 1-0 Tottenham for Steve and 2-0 for Stewart. Burnley game, Steve.
I'm expecting Newcastle to win this game. This is where I see Newcastle get a result. Burnley, in my mind, are safe, well safe now. They will feel as if the season is over. It is always difficult to motivate yourselves. When you get to that position, they're not chasing Europe. They've escaped relegation, and their minds will be focused on having a summer holiday and getting onto the beach. It's been a happy hunting ground for Newcastle. ASM hopefully will get a run out tomorrow and have some minutes under his belt and be firing all cylinders for that game. And Wilson hopefully will be back for that game as well. I'm going to go for a rather confident, for me, 2-0 win at Burnley.
Still.
Well, I think we'll win at Burnley as well, because we'll have our intrepid trio back with Wilson, ASM and Miggy playing. And I think after tomorrow's performance, if we get beaten, it's a poor performance. There'll be a lot more pressure on Bruce than what there already has been, and I think he might actually succumb to that pressure and play the four that we've been crying out for all season, and have Fraser and ASM on the wings with Miggy playing behind Wilson for the first time. And I believe that we will start like a house on fire. They'll all go out pumped up. This might be the team's pick, the players' pick, rather than the manager's pick. And they'll go out and prove a point, and they'll go 2-0 up. And then the players will tire, the ones that have been come back injured. Well, they'll all tire because they haven't been traded. So that they'll tire at the end of the second half, and Burnley will get one. So we'll end up being 2-1 up, hanging on from what should have been a comfortable victory. But 3 points to Newcastle against Burnley.
2-0 or 2-1?
2-1.
2-1. All right. West Ham, Steve.
West Ham, always an interesting game. They've had an absolutely fantastic season. No doubt about it. Really, really played well. They're still in the mix. Obviously, Europe's a big push for them. Can we get something off that, out of that game? I do think we will get something. I think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think Newcastle and West Ham will go at each other. I think the gloves will be off after getting the points against Burnley if it all goes according to plan. I'm going to predict a 2-2 draw for that game. But, I think West Ham will be happy coming to Newcastle and getting a point. But yeah, 2-2.
Draw 2-2 for Steve. Stu.
Well, initially I was going to go for a draw as well, but I think Newcastle will win. They'll have the bounce from winning a Burnley, inshallah. And then we'll... But also, I have a bet with a friend in Dubai every Newcastle West Ham game, and I've done quite well over the last few years. So I have to pick Newcastle to win. But I think West Ham are a lot more organised. They've got something to play for. So it'll be close. I think by this time, Fernandes might have had some minutes in the previous two games, and we'll have more solidity in the defence. The midfield should be better by this stage after a confidence of a win. So I think we'll beat West Ham 1-0.
1-0. Liverpool, Steve.
Can't see anything other than a home win in this game. I think Liverpool will certainly have picked up from the recent poor run of form. It's not a place where Newcastle tend to go and play very well. Only a couple of wins there, in the last 30 years. I see nothing but a Liverpool win here, and I think Newcastle will come crashing back down to earth, and I think that will be Liverpool 3, Newcastle 1.
Still.
Well, initially I'd wrote down that it would be 4-0 to Liverpool, but then I started looking at it more closely, and if Liverpool get through, I think they've got Real Madrid around about that time as well. There's a European game either side of the second leg of a European game, so that still shouldn't look at Newcastle as cannon fodder. They have got a suspect defence. But again, though, Newcastle's look, Van Dijk will probably make a miraculous return and start playing against Newcastle, but I don't think so. I can see us scoring, but I'll still see Liverpool winning. So I've changed from 4-0 to Liverpool to 2-1 to Liverpool. They'll do just enough because they'll have a bigger game during the week.
Arsenal, Steve.
Always a funny game, Arsenal, at St James's Park. We've seen some absolutely brilliant games between the two teams. We've seen some absolute stinkers. We've seen some world-class goals. I think we all remember the 4-4 in recent times when Tiote got that wonderful equaliser. And, there's the Dennis Bergkamp goal, of course, against Nikos Dabizas way back in the 90s. But, always an interesting game. Always a game which I tend to look forward to going to when we can go to St James's Park. And of course, it's the Malcolm MacDonald derby, because Malcolm, of course, played for both teams. I feel that's a game where we can get something out of again. It's at St James's Park. Arsenal, again, like a lot of the London clubs, don't travel well to Newcastle. We always give them a good game. And I think that's another point in the bag for Newcastle. I think it'll be a tight game. I don't think there'll be many chances, but I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw there.
Cool. Stu, and I want to remind you that still for you now is 0 point collect.
How many?
0.
How?
Yeah, and you are the positive.
I had us beating Burnley and beating West Ham. That's 6 points.
So 2-0 for Newcastle against Tottenham.
No. Tottenham to win 2-0. Newcastle to beat Burnley 2-1. Newcastle to beat West Ham 1-0.
Sorry, my mistake. My bad. 0-1. Okay. And Liverpool?
2-1 to Liverpool. 2-1 to Liverpool.
So 3 points.
6. Beat West Ham to beat Burnley.
Burnley, sorry. I just overcrossed, sorry. Okay, so Arsenal.
Right, Arsenal, we know it can be a funny fixture. It depends which Arsenal turn up. Is it the one there, by that stage, have they got anything really to play for? And they could put a lackluster performance in? Or are they pushing for the Champions League or the Europa League spots and they're on fire? But the biggest concern for me from a Newcastle standpoint is that was one of the best goals I've ever seen just for how it happened. Loved that game. Anyway, the biggest worry I've got from a Newcastle standpoint is the fact that we all know Hayden's out for the rest of the season and Joe Willock won't be able to play. So that's really a centre midfield gone. So the way things are, it will be Shelby plus one other. And that's a concern. So I put down that because we'd picked up some earlier points, that Arsenal would win, but it would be close. 2-1 to Arsenal, that game. That's 0 points for Newcastle.
Okay, Leicester City, Steve.
Can't see anything other than Leicester winning that game. Leicester's a bit of a bogey team for us at the moment, and we've had some major disasters against them, albeit when we lose a man, getting sent off, etc. But it's not a happy hunting ground, the King Power Stadium. You've always got a Jose Perez in waiting down there as well, not to mention Jamie Vardy. But they've got a fantastic midfield. I'd go as far as to say they're probably one of the best midfields in the English Premier League at this moment in time. Got so many exciting players. Maddison is one of my favourite players in the Premier League who obviously doesn't play for us. So it's just really, a really good team, a really good manager, and too good for Newcastle's current lot. I can see nothing here but a Leicester win, and I'm going to go 3-0 to Leicester.
Stu?
Well, I haven't conferred with Steve before this, but I've got 3-0 Leicester as well. I think they've got, for similar reasons, they've got too much energy, too much know-how, too much belief in their own ability, and they should be looking to secure a Champions League spot by that stage if the results go their way prior to that. And I can't see them letting up against a Newcastle who will just be lambs to the slaughter in that game, unfortunately. I think it's one we'll have to just scratch off and just put it down to see what happens after that. 3-0 Leicester, 0 points Newcastle.
The Citizen, our friend from UAE, Steve.
Yeah, by now in the season, I think Newcastle fans will be getting what Alex Ferguson used to call squeaky bum time, because those results against Burnley and West Ham that we've predicted will be such a distant memory. Fulham will no doubt have picked up some points, and it'll be very, very tight towards the bottom in more ways than one. And Manchester City will not give anybody an easy game. And for me, although it's at St James's Park and we've had some good games against them, I put a lot of the decent results we've had against them really down to the atmosphere and the crowd and the pressure that they felt whenever they've come to St James's Park. No crowds, no pressure. Can only see Manchester City recording an away win there, and I think it'll be tighter than the most people would expect me to predict. But again, I still see Manchester City running out 3-1 winners there.
Still,
I've got 3-1 as well to Manchester City, not to Newcastle. I think they would have won the league by then, and quite possibly they've won the League Cup as well. So their main focus would be if they're still in the FA Cup and still in the Champions League. So they'll probably rest players against Newcastle and play a lot of their reserves. which any one of them would get in our team without even thinking about it. So their reserve team will beat us 3-1. So 0 points to Newcastle that game as well.
So
And
far,
I think
now,
we'll change things around.
so far we have Steve Wraith. We have 2 points from 2 draw against West Ham and Arsenal. So
No,
2 points so far.
I definitely had a win against Burnley, so 5 points for me.
5 points, yeah. Sorry, just I'm trying to catch up. Sorry. So 5 points, cool. Yeah, I'm very bad at math. Okay, and 2 for you. Still 6 points, right?
Yeah, so far.
Cool. So now Sheffield United.
Business end of the season, these 2 games, when you saw the fixture list at the start of the season, did you ever think that these 2 games would be the key games in Newcastle's season? I didn't, because I didn't expect Sheffield United to be at the bottom of the table. Sheffield United were fantastic last season. They were a breath of fresh air. Chris Wilder really, was as a Sheffield United fan and somebody who just... You looked at as another football fan and you thought, what a good guy. Do you know, a good guy in football. He had his Eddie Howe moment, I suppose. You know, everyone was saying, yeah, good luck to them. You know, I don't mind them getting a few points as long as they're not against us. And good team to watch. They were found out this season and they've dropped like the proverbial stone. They're going back to the Championship. They will be relegated by the time we play them in this game. It's a tough one, but I think Newcastle will win it. And this is where I see Newcastle really picking up the next win from after that Burnley win. So I think Newcastle will win this game. I think they'll win it comprehensively, and I think they'll win it by 2-0.
Still.
Well, I've only had one of these results all season, so I've got a 3-1 Newcastle win against Sheffield United. I think it could be at the stage where a win could be enough to ensure survival, depending on obviously how the Fulham and Brighton results go. And the fans should be back in the ground that day. And once again, it falls nicely for Steve Bruce, because I don't think the fans, as much as they despise how he's managing the club at the moment, their love and affection for the club overrides that. And I think the fans will, well, however many fans are allowed in, but they'll be very vociferous and very supportive of the team, of the players, and it should just be enough to give us a boost. Sheffield United will be relegated at that stage. They'll have absolutely nothing to play for. And you can never be too confident predicting a win for Newcastle, but this is the one I think they'll win 3-1.
Last game against Scott Barker, our oldest former player, against Fulham. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think Newcastle will be safe by then, because I don't think Fulham will have got the points they need. I think it'll be another day out. I'm sure Darren Curry will be organising the trip down for those fans who are allowed to go. And I think it'll be a good day out for Newcastle fans. The pressure will be off, not just the fans, but the team as well. And hopefully we will be another step towards the takeover. And Newcastle fans might have more than one reason to celebrate. But you know, that's living, I suppose, with a lot of hope. But yeah, I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think Newcastle will get a draw down there. I think, again, because Fulham are relegated, they won't have anything to play for, and Newcastle will be safe. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I can see it going end to end. I could see Newcastle probably winning that one as well. I think they'll win that 3-2.
3-2. So 10 points you expect, Steve, so far?
Yeah.
Cool. Still.
How many points do you get for that? 4 points for that win?
No, you have 9.
I'm on 9 already.
You're 9, and you are against Fulham last game. And Steve Wraith think we will be safe anyway.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think we'll be safe at that stage, and Fulham will be relegated. I'd still believe Fulham will want to go out with a bit of pride, but Newcastle players will have nothing to play for. Fulham players have nothing to play for. And some of them might be in the shop window. You know, we may have a takeover by then. We may not. Some players are out of contract. They might be wanting to impress other possible suitors. Fulham players might be the ones with aspirations of staying in the Premier League, might be wanting to put a performance in to try and secure that. I can see that game being a 2-2, actually entertaining draw. 2-2.
2-2.
Desmond, yeah.
Desmond.
So, realistic, Steve, and positive, Stu, all you are 10-10. Nil.
Quite a surprise that some of our predictions were, the same.
Identical.
So, yeah.
You just need to get Steve Bruce in between us. That's the next thing.
Yeah, look, for me, I just think it's all depending on injuries, it's all depending on suspensions, and it all depends on the players that Steve Bruce picks, because Steve Bruce is the man who picks the team. That's not going to change. I think what we've seen over the last 14 days is that Mike Ashley is not going to sack him. He's not going to get rid of him. I know that Stu said a bit earlier that he feels if we get beaten tomorrow that potentially there could be a decision made. I really don't know whether that's going to be the case. I think one story which was put out by Luke Edwards in the Telegraph yesterday was that he's talking about negotiating a new contract for Steve Bruce. Again, I think a lot of these things are done for clickbait. I don't think Steve Bruce will get a new contract. I think we may see him see his contract out if we do end up being relegated into the Championship, and there's still an opportunity for the takeover to go ahead. Then I expect to see Steve Bruce still to be there, because he's already proved he doesn't want to get rid of him. He doesn't want to pay the money to get rid of Steve Bruce, and that is just the way it is. The deal is done for the football club, and he doesn't want to renegotiate that deal, and he doesn't want to end up spending his money to get rid of a manager, which really won't be his problem if the takeover goes through. So, we were all guessing at this prior to Christmas. We all know now, we all know arbitration is going ahead. You put a photograph up of Nick DeMarco before. He is still sending subliminal messages to supporters, Newcastle-related subliminal messages. So it is clearly something which is ongoing. And, Stu and I and you have been on various shows and talked about it. And we are still, fairly confident that this can still go through. So it's a waiting game. It's a horrible waiting game, because we've waited for 12 months now. But, what's a few more months? Let's just hope that Newcastle are still in the Premier League, and that we can still, get this takeover done, and everybody can be a lot happier. But the league table, Newcastle 17th, 28 points. You would rather be in their position than in Fulham's. They've played a game more. And ultimately, they haven't got the points in the bag. So I'd still rather be in Newcastle's position in the moment than Fulham's.
Just a quickie. If you see this picture, this is the game again left for Fulham. Just a quickie, Steve. How many points? Just by look.
Okay, I think they'll get beat off Aston Villa tomorrow. I can't see that. I can't see them getting anything there. And I think Fulham will get 3 points against Burnley. I think they will get a draw at Wolves. I think they will get beaten against Arsenal, beaten against Chelsea, beaten against Southampton, and beaten against Man United.
So all four, just for and against us.
I can't see them getting anything against Aston Villa. I really can't. Aston Villa are a good team. I think they'll get a draw against Wolves, and I think they'll get a win against Burnley. It's only 4 points.
Cool.
That in itself will take them above. If they played those two games now, it takes them above Newcastle. But I just think Newcastle's got I think they've got an easier run in, and I think they've got more than enough to beat those. Get those points that I said earlier. I'm not really as concerned as I was a couple of weeks ago, and it's not until you start analysing the fixtures that you think, actually, yeah, I think Newcastle's okay here.
Stu, how many points? Out of 8 games left for Fulham.
I believe they'll get beat tomorrow. I think they'll get a draw against Wolves. They'll get beat of Arsenal, Chelsea. They may get a win against Burnley. Get a draw against Southampton, get beat up Man United, and a draw against Newcastle. So how many is that? 1,
5,
6, I think.
Yeah. So hopefully we are still up by 2 points. Hopefully we are safe by that. So let's have a quick. We have too many questions. I will just collect the important question, or I'm sure that we didn't be maybe answered before for our Arabic followers. This Modi just saying your guest is special always. Thank you for you all. That's just a comment, but I'm finding it. Yeah, that's a question from Moza, I think. She's saying, I hope, let's say Nick DeMarco gave us a hope by his last tweet about I think this one as well.
Newcastle Brownhill, yeah.
Yeah, and asking about arbitration.
Well, if you look at from last night, what Keith was saying, how much the QCs are getting paid, is a ballpark figure. He wasn't giving specifics, but if I was in that position, I'd be confident as well, and I'd still be saying we've got an excellent chance of it going through. And I'm sure there'll be a handsome bonus at the end of it. The guy knows what he's doing. He's confident. Otherwise, as I think Steve's just mentioned, he's sending subliminal messages. But he's very, very confident. He seems to have been confident from the start. He's got an exemplary track record, and I'm sure that everything he's done is done for a reason. And I believe that we will win this arbitration. And let's just have everything. Things get put in place where we're in a position where PIF still want to take advantage of what can be a fantastic club in future together.
Steve, what do you think about arbitration? Do you think they're asking when the result? Because some people still saying that they just check in the media from time to time, and they think the deal is cancelled or finished. But I just keep telling to them, we are just waiting the arbitration, and just to not be biased, it's 50-50 so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that arbitration, once you enter the arbitration process, then nobody can say anything legally, binding, contracts, etc. In a football club, you're not supposed to hear anything about a takeover, but there's been leaks all the way through the process from both sides. Whereas with arbitration, you can't do that. There can't be any leaks. So nobody knows anything other than the lawyers involved for the Premier League, the lawyers involved for the football club, and those people who are responsible for the appeal process. So that's it. Nobody knows. No journalists know. Nobody at the football club knows other than those people directly involved. We just have to wait. The only thing that we know for certain is that the panel and the person overseeing the arbitration was selected, and that's it. And that there was a problem with that. You're allowed to appeal against it once. Then after that, the person is put into the position, and we have the overseer of the arbitration process. That's it now. We just wait. We have to wait and see. Will there be an announcement? I don't know. I've never been through an arbitration process as a supporter. I've got no idea. It'll be interesting to see. It feels as if it's been going on for a long time, but we don't even know whether it's started yet. So the waiting game continues. I think we all have to concentrate on watching Newcastle's games and hoping that we get enough points. And I think one day we will wake up in the morning and we'll find out the result. That'll be it. We'll know then what's happened with arbitration. I don't think we can say any more than that.
I'll tell you what I get my confidence from about the arbitration is the fact that they were allowed to release some of the things that were said and who was on the panel, and there was suspicion or cast upon the lead person on the panel, to a point where if it just goes directly against Newcastle, I think the arbitration should be quite quick. This is just my own personal opinion. There's no inside information or anything. I think it'll be pretty quick. The panel will be saying this is why it's stalled. Then a case gets put forward. This is what we've done to amend that, and If it's not, then there'll be an appeal, which will be pretty quickly. But the thing that gives us the most confidence is if it gets refused through arbitration on 2 occasions, the next step will be the court, the High Court. And I'm more certain that Nick DeMarco and Shahid Fatima will be loving the chance to take these to a court of law, and that they'll be able to expose a lot of misdoings from the Premier League and leaks, etc. And it's a brand, it's a multi-billion-pound brand, and they don't want to harm that. You know, they need to find a solution where everyone comes out saying they got what they wanted out of it. The Premier League's, you know, quite rightly can say they never rejected it in the first place. They asked for this arbitration. It's now went down that route. So I honestly still believe, hand on heart, that this takeover will happen and we can enter a new era supporting Newcastle United. And then we can have an Irish retro show talking about all the rubbish games that we've had when we're winning the cups and everything in the years to come. That's just my personal opinion. I've never wavered from it. I honestly believe in working in the region and working with and selling property to Saudi businessmen. They're determined, and if they want something, they'll keep going until they get it. You know, it's their belief that, and they don't like being told no, and they've been told no. So it's okay. You tell me no. You tell me I can't have this. I will do what I can to get this now. And I hope we stay up, and it takes us away from any renegotiations with Mike Ashley, because for all intents and purposes the deal has been agreed. Let's get it over the line as quickly as possible and get the players in and look for the future that we deserve after these last 12 days. That's for sure.
So you expect after the season finish, the result will appear for arbitration?
Well, an arbitration can take 2 days. It can take 2 hours, 2 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah, your expectation.
It won't go 2 years, you know, but it won't go for a long period of time. The arbitration, to me, I think it's just a case of, look, this is why it's been stalled. This is what we need to find. This is what we've done. This is the amendments we've made. This is what we're prepared to do. And try and find arbitrations, try to find to mediate, to find some middle ground. Both parties, I don't think a decision's okay, you can have the takeover. I don't believe that comes from arbitration. It's like more of a mediation where they go away, okay, we're prepared to do this, you're prepared to do that. If that gets done, then we meet again and we'll have the Premier League making a big announcement.
Steve, if you lighting where exactly you think, in your expectation, is it after the season, the announcement of the result of arbitration?
I mean, I hope it's before the end of the season. I mean, you know, theoretically, that would give us such a bounce. If you could imagine, what the dressing room's been like this season with, player fallouts with Steve Bruce, etc. Wouldn't it have been great if, there'd been some kind of sign of the takeover was imminent and, that the arbitration case was won and it was a case of coming in and signing the contracts. Can you imagine then how the players would be energised and, Steve Bruce would probably be bereft because he knew that his days were up as the manager, but delighted knowing that a payoff was round the corner. But the players would probably start playing for pride and playing for positions and wanting to be part of the big dream, But yeah, I think Stu's right. I think it'll be the end of the season before we hear anything, and hopefully the summer, we'll see some kind of end to this, takeover horror that we've had. It's been a nightmare situation for us, and if we've stayed up this season, during this, it's great. It means that we can start off next season on a new path, on a new era, and everybody can be very, very happy. And hopefully, with the supporters, back in the ground. But it's a waiting game. It's a horrible waiting game, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. During a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic as well, with people locked in their houses and locked in at home and. It's been awful, an awful situation, but hopefully we're getting to the end of it. I think a lot of people have just switched off from it now. People have forgotten about it. They've put it to the back of their mind. But, there's no doubting that, this takeover, which we've preached about, talked about for the last 12 months, is still very much alive, and we haven't been given false hope. We haven't talked about it as much, but we have had that, you know, contact with people on both sides of the takeover. It's still very much alive, and you know, PIF will still come back to the table once they know that there is nothing else stopping them from buying Newcastle United, and that's a massive positive. And then we can concentrate on building up the links, bigger links between our country and your country, and we can move on happily, you know, and hopefully, you know, make, as Bill Shankly said about Liverpool once, Newcastle United a bastion of invincibility, and that's what we want at St James's Park with the Saudi backing.
That's all canny things to say, Steve and Stu. Last thing, I know, as expected, I know it will go for more than 1 hour. I apologize for this late. Just I decide this will be the last one. It's a comment, and I think we all want to have and welcome you in our beautiful country, and we hope to see you all soon in Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. Of course, Riyadh is capital of Saudi Arabia.
I look forward to it.
I'm here now. I'll be here twice in 4 weeks. I'm in Riyadh.
Yeah, and we have a game to watch tonight.
Yes, we're going to watch Arsenal and Liverpool, aren't we? He's taking me to the Saudi Arms for.
You enjoy that. I'm going to avoid football because it's bad enough watching Newcastle play. I'm going to watch. I'm watching Ant and Dec, who your viewers in Saudi need to Google. Ant and Dec. Go and have a look at them. They're very funny guys from Newcastle.
That's the last one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the last one tonight.
I just want to say, Steve, that your picture is frozen, but for us it's more than enough. At the end of the show, I would like to thank you, both of you. You are enlightening our show. Appreciated all your contribution tonight. That will be very great to our fans in Saudi Arabia. Appreciate that, and hopefully at the end tomorrow regardless the result, but I hopefully believe that Newcastle will win. I believe takeover will happen, and we will be happy at the end of the season, or specifically in the summer, with all good news. And really, I would like to thank you on my behalf and or our Saudi fans for Newcastle and Premier League.
Great stuff. Thanks for having us on, وليد.
شكرا. أشكركم جميعا. طبعا يعني اليوم كان معنا ضيوف من نيوكاسل، الإعلامي الكبير ستيف ريث، الإعلامي الرياضي ستيوارت بينمان، عضو رابطة مشجعين نيوكاسل. طبعا تكلموا معنا عن جميع الأشياء اللي تهم نيوكاسل، وإن شاء الله نتمنى أن صفقة نيوكاسل راح يبقى إن شاء الله في الدوري الإنجليزي، وبإذن الله راح صفقة الاستحواذ من صندوق الاستثمار السعودي بإذن الله راح تتم. ننتظر الآن قرار جلسة التحكيم المنتظرة، نتوقع إن شاء الله أنها في الصيف. ندعوكم بكرة. Steve, I'm on for tomorrow. Match day live.
On your show
I will be on.
Very good. Yes, looking forward to seeing you on that. And can I just say before we finish as well, I'd just like to pay my respects to Richard Green again. I've mentioned him on NUFC Matters, but Richard Green was, of course, a football lawyer, very high-profile football lawyer. I worked with him for 3 years at Newcastle United with Rafa Benitez. He lost his battle with COVID over the last couple of days, which was tragic. And I just want to pay my respects to him once again. We'll be raising a glass for him at 6 o'clock tomorrow night and sending the videos to his family. So just want to just say my thoughts are with his family in this terrible time.
Rest in peace. I almost forgot. Usually, happy holidays to all Christian friends in the UK and the world. Happy Easter, everyone. As well, happy Ramadan is going to be soon, after 1 week. Thank you all lads for your lighting our show tonight. Best of luck. Hopefully we are going to meet soon, and hopefully we'll have a special show after the takeover.
Thanks again, وليد. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
See you in 30 minutes, وليد.
I think it's about more than 30 minutes because it's traffic.
Don't let him get too drunk, وليد.
Actually,
I'll do that from Wednesday onwards.
شكرا لكم جميعا. شكرا لكم جميعا. نتمنى لكم نلقاكم إن شاء الله الأسبوع القادم. نراكم غدا في برنامج شؤون نيوكاسلية مع ستيف ريث. مباراة نيوكاسل غدا إن شاء الله أمام توتنهام في ملعب نيوكاسل سان جيمس بارك. تصبحون على خير، ونتمنى لكم ليلة سعيدة. Good night all.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.
I never take anything in football for granted, and I realised that the performance against Brighton was simply not good enough. So you have to accept people's opinions, and move on with it. You know, it's the one thing I've never done, Keith, ever, because we're in a fight. The easy thing would be to walk away. Because we're in a fight and we're in the thick of it, then the last thing I'm going to do is walk away, because certain individuals who are entitled to their opinion, of course they are, you know, but I'm determined to see it through, and that's what I'll try and do.